We're getting to a place in the world where people, they're not looking for people who are perfect. They're looking for people who practice, right? And that was one of my big things with the church is that you've got a lot of leaders who are presenting themselves one way, but they're not really practicing anything, right? And so you never really get to see their journey because they've arrived at a mountaintop.
Welcome to Rettel's Pub, where we talk about the spirits while partaking of spirits.
Nobody, we're human. We're going to get it wrong sometimes. We're not going to be perfect. And I think the good thing is I think we're at a place in the world, we're getting to a place in the world where people, they're not looking for people who are perfect. They're looking for people who practice, right? And that was one of my big things with the church is that you've got a lot of leaders who are presenting themselves one way, but they're not really practicing anything, right? And so you never really get to see their journey because they've arrived at a mountaintop. And that's the experience that they're trying to push to people when it really is more of a journey, which is, if you take a look at Jesus, that's what he had. He had a journey. He didn't have a mountaintop experience, but he had a journey. And it's funny you talk about the gifts, that you have, because I think they are gifts. I think that there are people that are gifted. I think a lot more of us have gifts than we understand or that we realize, and we just kind of brush it off. Or, worst case scenario, you're told that you're demonic or it's the devil when it really actually is just a part of our consciousness, right? And so I when I think about those experiences like the ones that you mentioned, I think they can happen. I think they do happen. I've had some of those kind of experiences myself. And that's what leads me to that whole thing about spiritual atheists. I think there is some kind of energy, some kind of spiritual realm. And I think spiritual, and let me be clear, I use the word spiritual because that's all we've got. It's kind of how like a lot of people use God because that's the framework that works for a lot of people. But in reality, God is actually just a title. It's not an actual name, which is why you will hear me say Bible God, because I think it's a little disrespectful to say God and just assume that it's the God of the Bible when there are a whole bunch of other gods. So I will say Bible God to let you know that that's who I'm talking about, right? But I think that in all of those, whatever path you choose, what we all have is some sort of spiritual, energetic connection to each other and to this world that we live in. And how it shows up can be so many different ways. And so I'm hoping that over time you've gotten more comfortable with the ways that it shows up for you, and own that about who you are and about how you get to show up in the world, because that gift that you have to see is something that's needed, even if you're never telling people or saying anything to people about it. But think about how that allows you to engage and interact with those people, because you do have a special way of seeing, and that allows you to be different with them. What a gift.
Yeah, it's I need to probably open up to it, I guess. I think I spent my entire life shoving it down, even when I was within Christianity. I never wanted to be, I never felt like I was, you'll understand. I never felt like I was worthy of such things. You know what I mean? I never felt worthy of those things. And so I'm starting to realize that as I move forward, and in fact, last night I had a dream, and again, I don't dream, and I'm not entirely sure what it was about. It's about someone I know, and I haven't had time today, but after we get done with this, I'm gonna reach out to them and make sure they're okay. It wasn't anything tragic or anything, but I have a feeling there's something wrong. The question that I always struggle with is, okay, what if I just had too much pizza last night, or drank a little bit too much or something like that. And so, but I'm going to reach out. I'm going to trust that that's something that I need to do. And if nothing else, I've just reached out and told someone, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. Just letting you know that if you need anything, let me know. And maybe they need that. Maybe they don't. But that's not for me to judge or not judge. I'm just going to say what I need to say and let it be what it is. And it's hard for me. That's the other thing. It's hard for me to even talk about it, because I don't like to, because of our upbringing, when you do such things, even if it was fake back in the day, you're put on a pedestal and I never wanted to be there. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be. I'm just a dude trying to live the best life I can live in the best way I know how. And if something like that happens, I'm kind of leery of it, because I don't want to. I guess because I have baggage of seeing other people take it and use it for bad, even if it's legit. And I do believe that some people have that ability, but they don't use it for good, if that makes sense. They would rather
Absolutely.
They would rather
and
earn tithes, right? And so I never want to.
That's with anything. I mean, people have gifts.
Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say people have gifts. Oh no, people. There's a little bit of a delay, so we're okay there. But I think it's just people have gifts, whether it's spiritual or any other gifts, and they choose to use it for how they want. Good or evil. Bad or right or wrong. However we decide to phrase it and label it, everybody. But here's what I'm convinced of is that we get to choose. We get to choose our own adventure. We get to live with the decisions and the choices that we make, and know that once we know better, we can always do better, and that's just part of the journey.
Yeah, and that's probably it's something I need to probably, what's the word? I can't even think of the word. What I'm looking for. Make it a mantra, or make it a way to live, as opposed to. I constantly question everything, and not like I question why, but it's more like I question, okay, is this legit? Am I it's all based on that self-worth thing. It's all that I don't know if I'm worthy of this, but at the same time, I'm at the point to where it doesn't matter whether I'm worthy of it. It's there. It probably needs to be said to somebody, or something needs to happen. I actually prefer it when I don't know that I've said something that helps somebody to an extent, just because it's easy. I don't have to deal with that. Oh shit, here we go. Please don't put me on any kind of pedestal, Yeah. But so how long do you have today? Do you have a time limit on your? I
have a little bit more time. Yeah. 11:30.
Okay.
We can go till 11:30.
Till 11:30. What time is it now? What is it? 11 your time or 10 your time?
11:11. Happy 11:11.
Oh yeah.
11:30 my time.
Okay, so it's 10:11 my time. Okay, so we got about 20 minutes. Well, I had a few more questions that were kind of, I was going to put them at the end, but you just mentioned 11:11. Do you subscribe to numerology or angel numbers and that sort of thing?
I've never called them angel numbers, but I do get excited when I notice the time, like the 11:11, the 4:44, the 2:22, or I get excited when I see my birthday on the clock, 6:23.
Yeah. Well, I have, I don't know if you can see what it is, but I have, let's see, they're nines, because it to me, that means it means it's the fulfillment or the completion of an act. It's that it's kind of where I feel like I'm at. I had a completion of that dark time of my life, and it was a rebirth for me to an extent. And so I like the 11:11, and it's funny, you start seeing them everywhere, and it's kind of like, I don't know if it's legit or not, but it makes you feel like there's something else out there. So let me ask you a couple of questions. Let's go. If you were to say the one thing, what's the one thing that you would say to anybody that you think that anybody needs to hear, that would change their life, or that would somehow reach them or help them through whatever it is that they're going through?
Here's what comes to mind with that question. One of the things that changed for me was getting to this place where I realized that it wasn't that God was ignoring me. It wasn't that I had done something wrong and that's why he wasn't answering my prayer. It wasn't that God was testing me or punishing me. It was because God didn't exist. And that was a life-changing thing for me, because for all those years I spent time trying to categorize, well, why isn't God answering my prayers? Because of one of those things. I did something wrong. He's testing me. He's punishing me, or he's just saying that what I want isn't really good, and so I'm not allowed to have it, or he doesn't, and I'm justifying all these reasons. And I'll give you a little bit more with that. It was specifically around praying for the healing from the trauma, right? Because that was for years, and it wasn't. And people will say, "Well, you want God to be a genie." It had nothing to do with wanting God to be a genie. It wasn't. I wasn't asking for a man. I wasn't asking for a husband, for a house or for a car. I was honestly saying, God, can you remove this emotional weight so I can serve you and be better? Why wouldn't God answer that prayer? And people say, well, you blame God. I never blame God for the abuse that I went through. What I did say was, God, I don't understand. Why am I not worthy enough for you to intervene? You intervened in all these other situations. You helped all these other people. Why didn't you intervene for me? And when I got to this place where I realized it wasn't that he didn't intervene for me because, part of his plan was that I was going to be abused and he wanted me to suffer and he needed to test me and all that stuff that I was making up. It was like, what if it's just not real? Oh, wait a minute. That's what the thing is? And getting to that place for me allowed me to take agency for myself. Right? Because now if it's not God that I'm waiting on to heal and fix me, okay, then what are my other options? Okay, counseling and therapy. Learning different modalities like meditation and yoga and tapping and all the different things that you can do, breath work, right? And this is something that somebody may need to hear. Think about how tense your body is. And for a lot of people that have gone through a trauma, one of the things that we do is our breathing is very shallow, because we're so anxious all the time. Do you know how much can change in your body and in your emotions when you just learn how to take a deep breath and feel that breath through your body? But they don't teach us that in church. What they tell you is, oh, you just got to forgive more. You just got to love more. You need more scriptures. You need to be at the altar more. You need to worship more. You need to praise through it, right? And they never teach you how to heal. So the minute I was able to take it out of, it's not that God is ghosting me. It's not that God doesn't like me or that he's punishing me or that I'm unworthy. He's just not there. And let me find this other option. And that was a big game changer for me. And if people are stuck in that place, because I know the church will tell you that it's a demon, that you have a spirit of depression, that there's something wrong with you, you sinned, you haven't repented, you're not really in it. And they will give you this list of things as to why God isn't helping you. You do not have to believe and buy into that bullshit. Consider this, and I'm not asking you to switch your religion. I'm not asking you to throw out the Bible or throw out the baby with the bathwater, but consider this for a few seconds. If God is not there, what would you do? What could you do? And then go do that to get the help that you need.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what I had to do. I can't explain that stuff that happened to me, but it's allowed me. And you're right. I find myself even today. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm tense. I'm tense, and I think it's due to trauma from a kid. And the breath work. That's something that really makes you feel great when you're done. And it's amazing to me that it's a physiological thing. It's that sort of thing that has to do with physiological as opposed to even psychological to an extent. And it's also amazing to me that how good the body is at healing itself if you just let it do it. And so I've never heard of tapping. What is tapping?
Emotional freedom technique, and it's about tapping on your meridian points as you say certain statements and work through. I'm sure I'm doing it right now. Like you tap here, and you tap. And it's through the meridian points. You can connect it to the chakras. But it's something that has helped a lot of people with things like breaking free from addiction to like soda, from that to even, trauma responses or things that you're dealing with around money blockages or different kinds of things. It's one of the things that has helped me. I used to use it with my clients all the time when they were having fear and issues about sales conversations. Let's tap through the emotions of it, because what we tend to do if we're put into a situation and we don't acknowledge our emotions, especially I think church teaches you to kind of cut yourself off from emotions, right? There's a song that always came through for me. We used to sing it in church, put on the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, right? And so what it's telling you to do is that anytime you feel sad, just praise God, right? Don't address the sadness, just praise, just come into worship. And that's why you see people are so emotional at worship services, right? Oh God, Jesus, you're crying in tears. You're not addressing any of the stuff. So when you leave, guess what's going to happen? You're going to go back to feeling shitty.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but tapping allows you to work through some of those emotions. And when you're doing these tapping points, you're actually able to tap into what comes up with those emotions. Right. And so I'll give you an example. If I'm feeling anxious about something, I might tap and say, even though I feel really anxious about this interview, I love and accept myself. I love and accept myself. I love and accept myself. And then you're paying attention to the emotions or the thoughts that are coming to you. And I would have my clients kind of write down like what comes up when you say you love and accept yourself. And when you address this idea that you are feeling anxious about it, or that you do feel shitty about, I feel shitty about the way my parents treated me. It makes me so angry that they treated me this way. Oh, I get so mad when I think about all the years and money I spent in church. Just releasing those emotions, because we don't want to say it because God's going to get me. But what we don't realize is that all that stuff is trapped in our bodies. And so it's a way to tap into those points, those meridian points in our body, and to really just release those emotions and to write about it and to think about it. Say, yeah, man, I really am angry about that. I've never talked about that before. I've never thought about how, choosing this Christian path kept me from certain relationships. How many relationships did I end because this person wasn't spiritual enough? And then I'm crying about, not being married. But then every person that was in my path, if they weren't spiritual enough, if they didn't read their Bible enough, I dumped them. And that was not my story, but that's some other stories that I've heard from people, right? Like, I wanted to be married, but the person wasn't Christian enough. So I broke up with them, right? And when you start to think back through all those things, you start to realize, wow, look at all these choices that I made based on this belief system that is probably not a really good thing. I am sad about that. I am angry about that. But guess what? I still love and accept myself. I'm still okay. I can still heal from this. And so that's tapping in a nutshell. And there's more, more to it. And there's different ways that you can connect to it. But that's one of the things that really helped me out a lot. Whenever I started feeling those feelings, instead of pressing them down and or praising and worshiping over them, or quoting a scripture that may or may not have made sense, I started really getting in touch with, oh, wow, I really do feel this. Oh yeah, and I feel this in my chest, and I feel this in the pit of my stomach, or I feel this in my shoulders. Oh, it's in my, let me breathe. Those are not things that you can ever learn in church, but they make a huge hell of a difference in you just being able to be, period. Just you being able to be. That's it.
To exist. Exactly. That's awesome. Okay. Well, I think that's about it. But the last thing I'd like to know is tell the people who are listening how they can find you, the various places. I know you said you had some writings and stuff like that. So how can we find you generally?
Well, if you're into TikTok and you're looking for, some questions, I post a lot of questions on TikTok about deconstruction and have some really good conversations there. You can find me under Ty Deconstructed on TikTok. And then I've got a website, tygoodwin.com. And I've got a deconstruction journal that's in the works for people who are trying to figure out how to even start this deconstruction process, and what are some questions that you can start doing the work on your own to get liberated. And that's where you can also find out about the liberation coaching that I do as well at tygoodwin.com.
Awesome. Well, Ty, I'm so thankful you came on. It's been awesome. I'm so glad I came across you. And that's the thing about TikTok that always surprises me is invariably there's something I need to hear and someone pops up and says it. And sometimes it's not even something that I even thought I needed to hear. And it's like, man, now I got to go find a closet and cry. That's just kind of the way it is, because I really needed that. And your that video popped, and I'm like, immediately I was like, I'm following her. That's awesome stuff right there. And so I'm grateful to have you on. It's been awesome. And so thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for the work that you're doing. And thank you for the work that you've done within yourself too. I don't think we applaud the courage that it takes for people to step out of what they were brought up in and step into whoever it is they need to become next. So, good work that you've done, and keep it going, and keep speaking, and keep sharing through these interviews and through the other ways that you do. Keep sharing. It's worth it. It's needed.
Well, I thank you very much. I need to hear that probably more often than I should need to hear it. But thank you very much. I really need that encouragement. I'm thankful for you.